Right lads, we're back again. This week's tips video, we haven't done a tips video in about nearly 11 days because there was no UFC last week. I couldn't actually upload anything. I have like 2 videos fully done here and my PC was fucked up. So hopefully this one does come out. I don't really know what's wrong with it, but we'll fix it. But we're going to get down to this. I'm not going to waste too much time. We're in Tennessee. Derek Lewis is the main event. Derek Lewis versus Teixeira or something along those lines. I thought it was actually Johnny Walker's brother in the main event, but I had that one wrong. Look, let's just get down to the lock of the week.
Oh, the clean monster, Lotw Walker!
Yes, lads. So this week's lock of the week is going to be Walter Walker, Johnny Walker's brother. Now, to me, there's a lot of lockable opportunities on this card. The one that makes me sway towards Johnny Walker, or Walter Walker the most, I'm just going to call him Walker. If I say Johnny, I don't mean it. It's just his brother's name is obviously the first fighter I can think of. But Walter Walker, the clean monster, the reason I actually pick him is because the ground game that he has is ridiculous. He's had 2 heel hooks in a row now against Dontel Mays and Junior Taffet. Now look, okay, it's not exactly spectacular competition, but I wouldn't say Kennedy's that much better. He clearly has a tested chin. He's finished all of his fights. He's only gone to decision once. He lost against Lucas Bresky. He just didn't really look in that fight, and that was a surprisingly good performance by Lucas Bresky. But look, I'm going to be honest, I think the ground game is just going to be kind of there from. I think he's going to be overwhelm Kennedy. I think it's just going to be probably a fast submission again is what I'm looking at. I just think he's going to be able to just work Kennedy more than anything else. I don't think it's going to be spectacular from either man. I do think it's a strange spot in the card. I don't think it should be in the prelims. I really thought it should have been over main card, maybe over Taco Tonkos and Taffa. It's a strange fight to have so low in the card. But give me Johnny Walker by submission. I do think his chin will hold up. I don't think Kennedy has a massive amount if you go past the first 5 minutes. We haven't seen that heavyweight yet, but at light heavyweight, did we start to kind of go? I do think Walker picks this one up very early and finishes it. I don't believe that Kennedy really has the sort of technique and stuff that you need to win in this sort of heavyweight division once you're not fighting Lucas Bresky or Chris Boy Barnett. 2 fighters that just don't hold any real weight in the division. 2 good knockouts, of course. He has power, but I think Johnny Walker's chin will hold up. I think he'll be able to get in. Probably another heel hook. To be honest, I think that heel looks really, really good for how tall he is. He doesn't have the reach advantage in this fight, but because of how tall he is, 6'6", gets him down, heel hook, I think that's going to land. But right, we'll get down to the favourites here now. Right, so here we are inside the favourite bracket. Now, the favourite bracket this week's a weird one. It's with all the odds in this card are a strange one, because I also 4 underdogs. I'll literally just spoil that right now. But look, we're going to Chris Curtis first. He's fighting Max Griffin. Now, look, it's 2 37-year-olds. I do think Chris Curtis has been a bit unlucky on the form of turn recently in the UFC. I also didn't think he was 37. I thought he was a bit younger than that, but he is 37. I think he's been done a bit on the form of turn, like the loss against Roman Kopylov. There's still 10 seconds left. He was going to lose that fight and he was 2-1, but it would have been a 29-28 decision instead of the KO loss. Don't really agree with it. I do think Chris Curtis is the better fighter between him and Max Griffin. I do think Max Griffin is one that shows that he's 37. I still believe that Chris Curtis is the better fighter between the two of them. The grappling will be Chris Curtis's, and I even think the striking will be Chris Curtis's. I see a finish coming in this fight, to be honest. I think it's 2 37-year-olds, both chinny. But I think Chris Curtis could probably land the bigger strikes here, maybe get it down to the ground, finish with a ground and pound. Give me Chris Curtis. Next, we're going to Big Steve Meanie Garcia. Now, look, I can't, with good conscience, pick Calvin Kattar anymore. I've tried him twice on this channel. I've locked him. Now, in the Tasmanian Devil or the Moroccan Devil's fight against Yusuf Zahal, Yusuf Zahal did just run around the octagon for the last 5 minutes, barely even engaging, basically doing a Shakar Stevenson or a Floyd Mayweather sort of fight. But look, I can't also really argue too much about it. I can't sit here and go, oh, well, that was bullshit or anything like that. Steve Garcia, I just think, will be able to outwork Calvin Kattar like a lot of these people have done in recent fights. Zahal done it in the first 2 rounds. He just basically overland strikes, just outland him. And Calvin Kattar is getting slow, to be honest. I think he's getting a bit slower than I would have expected. I locked him the last time at high odds. I can't do it again. I can't pick him. I think Steve Garcia is the grappling, the wrestling, the striking. All of it's in Steve Garcia's favour. I think that it's going to be a decision, but probably a pretty close one. I'd say Steve wins the first 2 rounds, and then Kattar, probably him step up in the third and have a very, very close fight like most of Calvin Kattar's, but I do think a 29-28 Steve Garcia. Next, we go into the last pirate, Morgan Sherry here. No, he's fighting Late the Train Nanware. Now, look, being honest, Nate the Train probably would have been a lot higher, and I don't actually think he would have been the underdog to how high odds he is if there wasn't for the Doi Hoi Choi fight. The Korean Superboy absolutely decimated him. The Lost Pirates had a bit of a weird form inside the UFC. It seems to be he either comes into fights and doesn't put enough into it, or else he puts too much into it and gasses. I think you'll find the right balance here. I don't think Nate will put up too much of a restraint. I'd maybe say there could be a finish from Morgan Sherrier. He does have 12 finishes, or 12 knockouts in his UFC career, or sorry, MMA career, and has never been finished by KO. So I would say that there's a likelihood of it. Nate kind of showed against the Korean Superboy that he is losing steam as he keeps going forward. The train is kind of starting to stall on the tracks. I wouldn't be too surprised if the Lost Pirate finishes him in around 1 or 2, but the decision is definitely going to be there. I'd say 30-27, very easy win for Morgan Sherry. I think he just basically outpoints him and just stays on the outside with smart jabs. Next we go into Shitty, Shitty Bang Bang Shitty on the Chekwu. I can't really say a second name. Like, he's fighting Jake Matthews, and this is another 38-year-old versus 36-year-old matchup. A lot of weird matchups on this card, to be honest. It's an odd fight night. I wouldn't exactly call it a spectacular fight night, but if I'm going to be honest, I just think Shitty Moore is the finishing power between the two of them. I don't think Jake Matthews has always been the smartest in the octagon. He has low IQ moment. Being fair to the Celtic kid, the man has realistically only lost to some of the highest in the division, but on his most of his recent wins, being honest, it's only Darius Flowers, Phil Rowe, and Fredesco Paredo. I just think there's low IQ moments in Matches' performances. I do think Shady Okedru can come in here with the big strikes and be able to just overwork him. I think the grappling's very even. I just think the striking's in Shady's corner. I do think that it's going to be a pretty maybe lackluster fight. I think it's the best way to say it. Maybe lackluster for 15 minutes, but I do think Shady probably takes it easily enough. But look, we'll move down to the underdogs. And this is where I think there's going to be a lot of controversy for people watching this. I'm picking some strange people here, but I have good reasoning to why. So we'll start with Taco Tonkos. Look, I do not rate Junior Tafa. I've never seen an MMA fighter look so kind of confused on the basics, to be genuinely honest, to be in the UFC. The man can't defend a leg kick. He has no grappling. I don't know if he's ever even practiced grappling, but he doesn't have any. His brother has at least worked on some of this stuff. It might not have been very successful, but he's worked on some of it. I mean, Junior Tafa's 6-3. He has 2 UFC wins, but one of them's over Porky Parker, who basically, if you're going to be honest, both brothers got the exact same finish on the man. I'm not really sure why he didn't try to wrestle. You can see in the Muhammad Usman fight with Tafa, I've never seen an MMA fighter hit the mat and have no resolve to try to get up. He just sat on his back for 10 minutes, didn't even try to get up. Now, I also think it's another thing that he doesn't really have 15-minute cardio at all. Taco Tonkos, I have said, is one of the worst light heavyweights I've ever seen. It's not one of these things that I'm going to act like I haven't. If you watch the matchmaking videos, I struggle to give him a fight. This is a very winnable fight. Tafa's moving down to light heavyweight, which I think is fair, but I'm not sure does the power translate. With him losing more weight, will it really help him? I'm not sure, because he was coming into most heavyweight fights around 250, 240. I think the lowest he ever got was like 236 or 238, which, okay, if you're moving down to like heavyweight, fine. I'm not sure the power translates, and I think Taco Tonkos could easily just maul him on the ground at 7-5, even maybe a submission. Like, Tafa, I'm being honest, he doesn't fucking even try to get up. He just sits on his back and that's it. There's no movement, there's no nothing, there's no trying to get up. I don't understand how losing weight is going to help that. Even if he's practiced like heavyweight grappling, it still won't help because he still won't be stronger than his opponent. I'm picking Taco Tonkos just the simple fact that I think Tafa is the perfect fight. One man who just has no get-ups in his game at all, and he cannot defend a leg kick. I've never seen an MMA fighter just get kicked and not react or try to block or count anything. He just gets kicked and it's oh, what do I do now? That's all it's going to be. Taco Tongos, I think, wins this by pressure wrestling, kicks, and possibly a submission. Because Tafa, to me, won't try to get up. If he gets up, I'll be very impressed, but I don't see it happening. Next, going to Wonderboy. Now, look, I was tempted to back tip Wonderboy here, lock Wonderboy, because he's fighting Gabriel Bafum, who hasn't really beaten a massive amount of UFC talent. Is 17-1. He's 4-1 the UFC. He's beaten Trevin Giles, Anzalusa, and Chaos Williams. The Chaos Williams one might have shown a bit more weight if we didn't see Chaos Williams come into that fight recently, where he genuinely, just looks like he can't fight over 4 minutes anymore. Gabriel Bonfim did submit him, fair enough, he's good on the ground. I just don't think losing to Nicholas Dalby is something that I can really look at. And I thought Wonderboy, all credit to Wonderboy, looked really, really good in the Thompson fight, in the Buckley fight. He just unfortunately got finished later on. I don't see that happening here. I see this being a classic Wonderboy performance. Great stand-up, staying out on the outside, working his kicks, working his jab, being able to stay on his feet, keeping the grappling basically away from him with his reach. I think that Wonderboy will take this on decision. I would probably say 29-28. I'm going to be honest. I think he's going to be able to fail off the grappling, keep him at distance with a jab, and his kicks. His kicking game is always lethal. I think he'll put that into great form again. Now, look, this is the one that's going to cause a lot of issue, and I have this back at 5-1. This is the one that I genuinely had to back early because I knew the odds were going to drop. Never in a million fucking years on this planet, if we get hit by a meteor, ever should Victor Petrino be 7-1 odds against anyone. He could fight Stephen Hawkins, Helen Keller, me, and I wouldn't even put him anywhere near those odds. He has to be the lowest IQ fighter in UFC history, and no exception, no exaggeration. I have never seen a man get submitted, and I will show the clip right now of Anthony Smith submitting him when he goes for the grappling and gets caught in the guillotine because he's the stupidest fighter I've ever seen. That is Anthony Smith, Lionheart, who is on, I think, almost at like a 6-fight losing streak, who doesn't even look like he wants to be in the octagon, and you still lose. And that's not even it. Like, he goes in against a world champion kickboxer in fucking Dustin Jacoby and stands with him. He just stands with him right in front of him for 3 rounds and gets finished. Because of course he fucking does. He's moving up to heavyweight, and I can't see possibly how him adding 40 to 50 pounds is going to make him any better at the time. Like, there's no way. If he weighs in anything below maybe 240, it's not going to help. 250, he's going to be even more slower and less mobile. Now, Austin Lane is nowhere near good. Do not get me twisted here. I'm not calling Austin Lane good. But can Austin Lane wrestle? Yes, he should against Robert Delicious. It's not like Robert Dusaplan or whatever his name is that good. No. Does Austin Lane have a bit of chinniness about him? Yes. Can Victor Petrino carry the power? I don't think so. I don't think he can carry light heavyweight power to heavyweight power. I don't think he can. I think Austin Lane is able to out-wrestle him and just be able to basically use his size and his power to be able to out-wrestle and grapple Victor Petrino. We have seen Victor Petrino with very, very, very low IQ moments in the octagon. Very, very low IQ. Like, honestly, stuff that makes you think, how did this thing get into the UFC? And that's what I think is going to happen here. I think Austin Lane at 5-1 is the best punt in this weekend and in UFC history, because it has, like, usually when you see these types of odds, like, oh, he'll never win. But there's a good 75% chance Austin Lane can win this. And that's why I have him here. Because Victor Petrino never in a million fucking years should be 1-7 against anyone. Anyone. But look, we'll go into Derek Lewis. We'll finish it off with the main event. Derek Lewis has never actually won in Texas. Like, he's from Houston, and I don't think he's never won in the state of Texas. He's had 2 fights. He lost to Tai Tuivasa and one early in his career. I can't remember who he was against, but I know he lost it. This one, I think he might break it. Now, hold on. How did she say this guy's name? Teixeira? Yeah, okay, let's call him Teixeira. Teixeira here is only 8-0. He's 25. He does have a 6-inch reach advantage on Derek Lewis. But his only actual finish in the UFC is Justin Tafa. It was a good elbow. It was a good finish. But are we maybe testing someone maybe a bit too early? Like, you're putting him against 13th in the division when he only has one win. Seems a bit quick. I do think that the reach will be a bit of an issue, but if they're going full standing, I take Derek Lewis to knock out any man in the heavyweight division if you're going to stay standing with him. Derek Lewis, we seen his flying knee 2 years ago. That man could put out anything he really wants. I wouldn't be too surprised if Teixeira stands straight in front of him. Derek Lewis hands that fucking overhand fucking right from fucking his own hip, just knocks him out clean. That wouldn't be very surprising to me. At 9-4, I'll take the Black Beast. I don't think there's going to be exactly a high class of heavyweight main event. Of course not. I don't think there's grappling really going to be too much involved. It's either first round finish or 25 minute slog. And if it goes for a 25 minute slog, I take Derek Lewis on that any day. But yeah, give me Derek Lewis. And look, we'll go make the ACA here now. I don't actually have this back yet myself. Alright, so here we are at the ACA, lads. So 1-3 Chris Curtis, should it be 4-11 Moran Sherrier, and 4-5 Steve Garcia. We will throw a tenner on ACA, back 57. And that would be the ACA right there. So anyways, lads, if you did enjoy the video, please hit the like button or hit the subscribe button. I'll keep doing these. I won't leave them in the dark. We will be back with more tips videos. We'll see how this Tennessee card does. Might do a live reaction because I'll be here, but anything I said before, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.